Kia ora, welcome to the Aotearoa Rugby Pod. A really busy week of rugby ahead as we try to line up what exactly is going to happen in the quarterfinals in Super Rugby. You know, who's going to get a home playoff? Who's going to sneak into the 8? Can the Drua get in there? You know, there's plenty to go, even though the Chiefs have wrapped up that top spot to figure out this weekend. Obviously, the top 8 system is working pretty damn nicely. So we'll get into a little bit of that. We've also got a couple of guests for you. Later on in the show, Grant Nisbet, the voice of rugby, joins us. Over 300 test matches to his name, so look forward to chatting with him about what's going on in the competition and also basically how it works in the commentary box. But before that, we've also got a special guest coming out of the Hurricanes, Cam Roigard, the halfback on the rise. Joining me, as ever, James Parsons. Fizzing.
Oh, yeah, look, I pulled a few strings, being president of the fan club. I lent on the big fella and he's agreed to come on, which is awesome.
Cam, the fan club, is it stalker territory or is it fan club?
Nah, I suppose it's all positive stuff, so I'll let it slide for now. But it's great to be on here.
How are the guys feeling after that game on the weekend? It was, I suppose a tough game with the playoffs not far away.
Yeah. I suppose it was pretty tough to take because we definitely, I suppose, put ourselves an opportunity to win that game, and we feel like we probably didn't nail some key moments after doing some good things. We didn't quite nail moments after that, which I suppose was probably the difference in them winning and us not. So I suppose the positive is that it's on us. We know that we can win those games, but going into the quarterfinal or in a couple of weeks, or there's even the Crusaders this week, which is going to be big. We know that we've got to be better to beat these teams heading into the finals. Yeah.
This is from last week, but based on your attacking stats on the weekend, you probably remain, first in defenders beaten per game, first in clean breaks per game, first in turnovers won at the breakdown and loose balls in the game, first in conversion rate for tries once you enter the 22. So attacking-wise, you're the best in the comp. What are the key areas, I suppose, you guys are seeing? Not what are the, it could be backed up by stats, it may not, but what are the key areas of the game that you guys are looking to nail, not only this week, but building into that playoff picture?
We're trying to put a big focus on just our individual accountability and skill sets, really, because like you say, we can get ourselves in good spots on the field, and then there's just one little moment of either an individual error or letting another team get over the ball and turn it over, which is, I suppose, shooting ourselves in the foot. So we've definitely got the talent and the game plan to score points and win games, but at the moment, I suppose, we're just not quite, pulling together a complete performance, which I suppose is needed at this level, this late in the competition to win these games. So, yeah. Looking
at how you sort of stood up at NPC was probably a lot of you taking the game by the scruff of the neck, whereas in Super Rugby, and sometimes I don't feel like your type 5 gets enough pats on the back, but for the most part of this season, man, you've had a platform to work off, and some of those guys are just working over. You look at Blackwell on the weekend, I think it was 18 tackles. Lomax is going from strength to strength. Xavier, Suffer, there's some real quality players in there that are surely making your life easier.
Yeah, 100%. And on both sides of the ball as well. Like I suppose like an NPC, I'd make at least 10, 15 tackles a game, whereas this at this level, I'm pretty fortunate. I'm only making 3 or 4, which I suppose is a credit to the work, like you say, that the type forwards and people in front of me are doing. They're making tackles, keeping stopping those boys from getting through the D line, and then on the other side of the ball, strong carriers giving us a platform, great set piece, dominating scrums. So it's definitely different, but it's good because I can just, I suppose, tap into my role, but more just try now my stuff.
If your halfback's making more than 3 or 4 tackles, you're not doing your job. So because they've got such a massive role in being the eyes for the guys around the ruck, if you need to get around far side, so forth. So if they're having to make a tackle, that's gone. Then you're probably relying on a fullback who's 20 or 30 metres away to communicate that. So it is, although I know he'll absolutely love making tackles, I don't think any team wants their halfback making that many tackles.
Yeah, it's a tough go.
Well, it just loses such a key driver for your defence. And as we know, defence does win championships. Going to go there. Aspirations to be an All Black are clear. Where do you feel you need to lift to sort of get to that level?
I suppose not get comfortable, just playing, I suppose, good or all right, just trying to always be hungry to get better every day. So, yeah, that's my main focus at the moment. Obviously, we have our focuses with the Canes and all that sort of stuff, but individually, just, trying to, I suppose, not just keep trying to get better. Yeah, that's the main thing.
And have the selectors maybe given you specific points on specific areas, and what might that be?
Always having conversations with the Hurricanes coaches and stuff, and they're always giving me, I suppose, stuff that I can control to try develop in, whether that's my game driving, getting to good locations to kick, or whether it's my tackling or pass consistency, etc. But there's always something that I can try fine tune and dig a bit deeper into. I suppose make that a strength of mine. Yeah.
And the All Blacks coaches, they haven't given you a call and had a similar conversation?
Had a conversation, but I suppose it's mainly just around, I suppose, trying to be consistent and just trying to nail my role individually and not trying to get, I suppose, too carried away.
Like with the All Blacks 15, that's selected by the All Black coaches, so there is a wider group. Yeah. The perception could be, if the All Black coaches are talking to Cam, not saying he's not right in the mix, but there is a wide group now with that All Blacks 15 that they have touch points with, and I think that's good because, I think that depth of, player is crucial, but also they've got two teams to pick now. So they need to be playing the same style so that they're ready to go and need to be across the same thing. So it's an exciting time with that All Blacks 15, I reckon, for a lot of these players because it gives you a genuine idea where you sit. It
was my first taste of international footy. Never played schoolboys or 20s or anything like that. So from an individual point, it was pretty cool. Pretty cool milestone for myself.
Well, thank you very much, Cam, for joining us. We appreciate your time, especially considering how big a game you got this weekend and in the weeks following.
No, sweet. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the invite on. So, it's been good.
Great to catch up, mate. Go well this weekend.
So from when the young buck, obviously he didn't win against the Blues on the weekend, scored 8 tries this season, 7th on the list. He's on his way up. He's a great young player. At the other end of the spectrum, John Afoa, who he's going to play this weekend, comes out of nowhere and ends up playing for the Crusaders.
Yeah, of all places. A bit like when DC came to the Blues, I think.
Yeah.
Look, he's a man that just loves the code and he's going to go till the wheels fall off, in his words. It's sort of amazing when you can get guys of that experience back into a group, with so many injuries and experienced players. And he held his own. Admittedly around the park, it was a lot quicker for him from where he'd come sort of French Div 2. But, set piece wise, that's all they really needed him to, set piece and clean your rucks. He was pretty solid for 50 minutes. And I think he only arrived Thursday. So there's a lot to take in terms of systems, calls. Only someone of his experience could pull that off. Because it could be disastrous for someone else. career defining almost, if you wanted the opportunity so desperately but didn't have the runs on the clock like him. So he was perfectly placed. And that's one thing Razor does so well, or maybe the Crusaders do so well. They always pick these, I suppose, Mike Delaney was one year. I can't think of any more off the top of my head, but they always get that older player that has such an influence on the squad and can step up and play.
It's funny to think about who lasts and who doesn't to that age, because you would imagine it wouldn't be the tight forwards, but so often it is.
Yeah, well, I think it's just because speed, John Afoa, when he first started, he was sort of like a Sapphire Moore, he was an athlete and could do his business. But as that speed diminishes, they get a little bit more licence to lose that, but then they're smart enough to sort of pick up in other areas, and that's why I think they can stand the test of time, because there is no game without solid set piece, Ross. And experience counts for a lot in those dark places.
No doubt. And from one veteran to another, veteran of broadcasting, the legend himself, Grant Nisbet, has done over 300 tests. He's the voice of New Zealand rugby, and you might not necessarily know his face. You absolutely know his voice, no matter where you watch rugby in the world. Nisbo, thank you very much for joining us.
G'day, boys. Nice to be with you.
You got to see John Afoa come on the field there on the weekend. Were you a little surprised? Suddenly there's this 40-year-old bloke running out there?
We got about a 2-hour notice that he was going to be in the squad, then he was going to start. But what a great story it is, isn't it? So now the oldest ever Super Rugby player. The second oldest, I heard a lot of people saying Brad Thorne. The second oldest actually was Ben May, and then Brad Thorne. But great story, and he's going to be with the Crusaders for the remainder of the season.
I'll tell you what, the Blues alumni chat was going off. It was firing on all cylinders when they saw him run out in red and black. It's hard to compare eras, I understand all that, in players, but are there some memorable players for you?
Oh yeah, lots. I mean, I've been lucky enough to see some of the great All Blacks. I'm often, if I'm asked to name my greatest ever All Black who I saw, it's always Christian Cullen. He was an absolute freak. But then, I don't like to play down the Carters and the McCaws, and it goes on and on and on. But naming an All Black, my favourite All Black 15, I'd be really struggling to leave blokes out. I mean, how do you compare Michael Jones with Richie McCaw? You'd probably have to pay Michael Jones on the blind side because you can't leave either of them out, really. So, yeah, I've been really lucky to have seen some of the really great All Blacks.
Who was your number one?
At 6?
No, overall. If Cully is Nisbo's favourite.
As an All Black?
Yeah.
I got presented my jersey by Richie, my first jersey, so I'm fairly fond of him and the way I held him in high regard and for the era I came through.
Yeah.
To give you an example, I stuffed up a line out on debut, and and he was the jumper, and he came up to me at the next scrum, and he was like, "Mate, I was a bit slow across the ground." And so all of a sudden, my debut, I'm like, beauty, that's not my fault. Skip's got me, packed down for the scrum. And after the game, he goes, "Oh, mate, I know what it's like when you've been that fit." This is the level of leadership and thought he had. He was like, "I wanted to take the pressure off you, but it was overthrown. So let's just have a look at that during the week and rectify." Wow. I just thought that's amazing. In a pressure situation test match, he has the ability to know that I needed that pressure relieved to get the best out of me for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
It's just things like that you've got to admire. He is quite a selfless player.
We've got a few predictions to make for the week ahead. Starting off with the Blues versus the Highlanders. This is the game where if the Highlanders can knock off the Blues, they can secure themselves a spot in the top 8. Do you think, Nisbo, that is a chance? No.
Yeah, I can't see it. Not at Eden Park. Look, I really admire the Highlanders this year. They've been fighting against the odds. You talk about Crusaders injuries. The Highlanders have been equally as affected, and they don't have the depth, as we know, in their squad to cope as well as the Crusaders. So I really admire them, but I think it might be a bridge too far.
Especially the way the Blues are finding form. I think the Blues at home again will be too strong.
Now, the Rebels are also pushing for that spot. They're away against the Brumbies. Any chance?
Some weeks you look at them and you're like, geez, they're really good, and then they let themselves down. They were really good last week, the Rebels. The Brumbies, they had 60% ball, 60% territory. They had to make less tackles, so they should have theoretically had more energy, and they tackled at 80%. That's not Brumbies' numbers. Brumbies' numbers are 90 plus. So there's something just not quite right with them at the moment.
So they're a little bit vulnerable, perhaps, to a Rebels team which is okay. It's not a world-beating team, but I think they're a runner's chance, put it that way. But I'd be looking at the Brumbies in Canberra for sure.
Now the Drua versus the Reds, Nisbo, that is a big game because you've got to get the feeling that if the Drua win that game, they're the team with the chance of popping into the 8.
2 New Zealand teams have shot up there this year and both come away with their tails between their legs, the Crusaders and the Hurricanes. So that's how difficult it is to win. And having said that, of course, Moana Pacifica very nearly toppled them last week. Look, I don't know what's happened to the Reds this year. On paper, they look pretty damn good. And And there were long periods of time in that game against the Highlanders last Friday night when I thought they're not a bad side, the Reds, but they lost it in the last few minutes. But I think the Drua will be well and truly fired up for this one. And I think they'll probably win at home.
If the Drua play like last week, though, I think they probably focused on just trying to get the bonus point. Do you know what I mean? Like, if they play like that, they'll get ridden off the field. Like, they only kicked 7 times, played too much footy, which gave opportunities. So they need to get that territory-based game going if they want to win at home.
Now, we've covered the Hurricanes and the Crusaders to some degree, but quickly, Jippa, from you?
I don't know. I'll have to see the teams. I genuinely can't pick that one. I need to wait for the teams. I don't want to put people wrong, you know, and then all of a sudden I go 7 from 7 again. You know? 6 from 6, whatever it is.
OK, well, while Jippa sits on the fence, Nisbo, what are you thinking?
I'll put my neck out and say the Hurricanes will play out of their skin and win this, largely based on the fact that the Crusaders pretty much cemented in second place, aren't they? And the fact that they've got so many injuries to key players. And I think the Hurricanes need some sort of performance heading into the playoffs. They're going to play in the playoffs, probably away from home. So I think they really need to put it on the line this week. And so I'm going to say, and they've done it in the past, and they've actually been a bit of a bogey team for the Crusaders over the years. So I'm going to say that the Hurricanes can do it again.
Waratahs versus Moana Pacifica.
I think Moana, unfortunately, are going to go through without a win, even though they probably should have got one last week.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been pumping Moana up in terms of their attack steps all season, but it's the defence, and I think the Tars will be too good at home.
Yeah, lastly, the Force versus the Chiefs. This is an interesting game again because of what's on the line. Nothing on the line for the Chiefs, plenty on the line for the Force. Nisbo, is this a Force side that can topple the Chiefs at home?
I can't see why the Chiefs, now that they've secured top position and can't be challenged there, why they would want to send their very best team in a game that they don't have to win. So, look, anything could happen here because the Force play well in Perth. There's no question about that. They've got some good results over there this season. And if the Chiefs send a less than strong team over, then I give the Force a real chance.
I think the Force are a chance, but I think that Reds game where they gave players opportunity will still be hurting. So I'm picking the Chiefs to win because there's bench spots to play for. They're a real title chance, and you want to be in that 23. And they'll want to rectify a few perceptions that the coaches will have after that Reds game.
So based off those predictions, I'm thinking that you guys are both seeing the Drua making their way into the top 8 and probably the Reds in 8th place behind them, with them in 7th?
Yeah, look, I've been trying to find a way to get the Highlanders in, but I'm struggling. I think the Highlanders actually have to win, don't they? I mean, and then that sort of casts any doubt that might linger. But I just don't know whether they can win.
Well, this is why the top 8 is in place, because this is a great conversation that wouldn't be happening if we only had a top 4 or a top 6. It just wouldn't be happening at all.
Well, yeah, especially if it was a top 6, there'd be nothing to talk about.
Yeah, plenty more teams in play in the last weekend. So thank you very much, Nisbo, for joining us on the Aotearoa Rugby Pod.
Enjoyed it, boys. All the best.
And thank you very much for joining us on Aotearoa Rugby Pod. Please catch us again next week. You can catch us on Sky, you can catch us on YouTube, you can catch us as an audio pod. Please get in touch, Aotearoa Rugby Pod at sky.co.nz, or leave a comment in the YouTube comments section and talk to us, and we'll try to answer any questions that you might have. So thank you very much. Mā te wā.